India's clean tech startup.
Fintech startup.
India is now the third largest startup ecosystem in the world.
The Indian startup ecosystem is not what you really think it is.
Meesho has laid off more than 250 employees.
The edtech giant has vacated its offices across the country.
Pro Mechanic manipulated his financial records by massive $42 million.
So back in 2020, when I was building my first startup, I thought I was a failure. See, we were all taught that success meant one thing, $1 billion valuation. They said, chase growth at all costs. Chase unicorns. That's what makes you successful. But what if everything we knew about the Indian startup ecosystem was a lie? The thing is, you have glamorized and celebrated the wrong heroes for far too long. And now, there's data that tells us something fascinating. While everyone was distracted by flashy valuations and funding rounds, something different was happening in the shadows. A new pattern was emerging. There's a whole different world of founders out there building real, lasting businesses. Tonight, we uncover the other side of the Indian startup ecosystem, the story that actually matters. This is the Indicorns Report 2024 by Titan Capital. My name is Rohit Kamath and welcome to Breakdown. This channel is glad to be a part of Zerodha 01 network, whose resources enable us to go deeper and bring well-researched content to you. India is a land that has traditionally been built on the dhanda mindset. For far too long, the startup narrative has been dominated by fundraising headlines and unicorn valuations. But the Indicorns 2024 report shows us a slightly different path, perhaps an even more sustainable definition of what success is. So there are two types of games founders can play while building a business. On one side, you have founders and VCs that are building a business at growth at all costs. Here, the founders identify large opportunities which require venture scale and focus on really blitzscaling. The way you want to think of these startups are more like high-stakes property flipping. Early stage VCs buy in cheap. They push the founders for aggressive growth. Then they sell it to the bigger funds at a higher valuation. The metrics that really matter here are growth rate, TAM, and storytelling. Unit economics or profitability really take like a backseat. This actually creates a treadmill for the founders. Because on one side, they need to raise at really high valuations. Then they need to burn cash to justify that growth in which they raise these high valuations at in order to show metrics for the next round. Because if they don't show an improved growth metric from their previous round, the early stage like investors will not be able to exit. And this cycle keeps repeating itself. Now, what's the end game here for such founders? Either one, where they sprint for an IPO while the growth story is still hot, or they get stuck somewhere in the middle where they're too big to fail and they're too unprofitable to exit. In this model, it's not about really building a sustainable business. It's about creating valuable equity that can be flipped to the next investor. The faster the flip, the better the returns, the better the IRR. However, Indicorns shows a different path. These companies have built something a little bit more valuable. The playbook here is that revenues are vanity, profits are sanity, and sustainable cash flows are a reality. Which means that these businesses are really focused on the bottom line, and top line numbers like revenue or GMV are just like vanity metrics for such companies. Now this makes us question, how have these companies crossed 100 crore revenue while remaining profitable? You know what's even fascinating? 60 to 65% of them are bootstrapped. Only 30 to 35% of them are funded. This analysis will be valuable for two types of audience, okay? One is where you have the seasoned founders looking to identify where some of these large profit pools in India exist. And on the other side, you have the aspirational entrepreneur searching for their next big idea. While we can't cover all 187 companies from this report, we'll make this a little bit more digestible by diving into one, the most lucrative sectors where some of these companies operate in. Two, the different business models that consistently show profitable growth and revenue. And three, some of them in revenue patterns that emerge across these industries. Based on the report of 187 companies, I have consolidated them into 6 sectors with few examples from each sector. The sector which was the most promising in this report was the financial sector, which comprised of 45 companies. And in this sector, you had like companies that operated in the trading and investment platform. Now here, like the way that these companies made money was on transaction fees, subscription plans, and interest on some of these, deposits, where some of the key services were stock trading, trading, mutual funds, and bond. Now here the poster boy of the Indian startup story is Zerodha, which is an online brokerage, trading and investment platform. Here did revenues of 6,877 crores with a PAT of 2,904 crores. This is for the financial year 2023. Fires, which is also like a technology-focused trading platform, did revenues of 203 crores with a PAT of 43 crores. The lending and credit space in India is one of the most lucrative opportunities also in the financial services sector. The revenues here are made from the interest on income, the processing fees, and the late payment charges. The target segment here is for the MSME consumers and the specific industries. A Kinara Capital, which is an MSME business loan provider, did revenues of 491 crores with a PAT of 41 crores. A Cash E, which is an AI-powered personal lending platform, did revenues of 577 crores with a PAT of 24 crores. Now coming to payment services. Now the main source of revenue for such companies is through the transaction fees. Now for example, every time you go online and place like an order, you are charged between 1 to 3% of that transaction value, which is then goes towards some of these like payment providers. So the business model here is actually B2B2C through a retail network. A Pay Nearby, which is one of the companies operating in the space, did about 382 crores in revenue and a PAT of 2.5 crores. FinkPay, which is an agent-based payment solution, did revenues of 143 crores with a PAT of 8.7 crores. Now moving on to insurance tech. This is a space in India which is just growing year on year. Like revenue or like monetization of such companies are from the sales and commission of insurance products and renewal fees that they essentially charge. Most of these like companies have been built on digital first distribution through like an agent network partnership model. A Turtle Mint, which is like a digital insurance platform, did revenues of 157 crores with 6.2 crores in PAT. Like RenewBuy, which is like a digital insurance advisory platform, did about 214 crores in revenue with 4.3 crores in PAT. The second most lucrative space was in technology and software. In this first, we have like the enterprise SaaS, which is one of the most famous ones, because here their business model is built on a subscription fee, either monthly or yearly. Then they have on top of that like the implementation fees, and then they have like the professional fees as well. Now there is a new business model like emerging like in India, which I want all founders to know about, is that the next generation of companies will be built in the outcome as a service business model. Let's go like a little bit back in time. When the entire like software boom came about, you had very large companies like Infosys and TCS, which were really built to capitalize on that entire opportunity. Now these companies were very like instrumental for like a B2B service in helping these companies set up their software and hardware system. Now as the computing costs came down, you had like the evolution of SaaS. Now when SaaS came about, SaaS was just a way to make the business processes and the efficiency a lot more streamlined. But it still had a large dependence on humans to like use these tools. Now as we look at the evolution of it, the next generation of businesses that will actually be built in this space, I think are more in the services as a software category, where you still hit the outcome, you still hit like the pain points of what some of these SaaS tools are looking to solve for by hitting directly the outcome. So like now what's like valuable in these type of like businesses is that you can charge a higher contract value because you're directly hitting the outcome, and you also have like AI which helps you build a lot of scale by using lesser number of people. So this is a right time for like founders looking out in this space to build outcome as a service business model. Now if you look at like Integration Wizards, for example, which is an AI powered enterprise like solution for CCTV cameras, here they do like a revenue of 183 crores with a PAT of 95 crores. That's a really good margin. SopSmart on the other side, which is a cloud-based business software, does 252 crores in revenue with a PAT of 8.3 crores. Alright, next like buzzword here in the market is of course AI/ML solutions. Now the revenue stream of these companies are mainly in the usage-based pricing model, where they have a high R&D cost initially, but that eventually gets offsetted when they go for like the economies of scale, right? Which is very critical and important for such business models. If you look at SmartPing, which is an email marketing automation platform, they did about 612 crores in revenue with 58 crores in PAT. So like Karza, which is an AI-based like verification like solutions platform, did revenues of 168 crores with 50 crores in PAT. Like the next point in this space is cloud services. So now in these type of companies, they have like a pay-per-use like business model, and they also like charge you based on the storage costs. Here in such companies, they have a really high infrastructure cost, and they can only offset that again through the economies of scale, or else like such companies find it very hard to sustain. Yota, which is a cloud infrastructure provider, did revenues of 103 crores with 2.6 crores in PAT. Now here the company Anuta, which is a cloud desktop as a service, which helps like modern workforces which manage like desktop and cloud services, did a revenue of 157 crores and 24 crores in PAT. Now if you look at like the evolution of like commodities, first it was gold, then it became oil. Today that commodity like is data, and companies building in this space are essentially like charging like platform license fee and like a data processing fee, because there's so much amount of like data that needs to be processed and stored. And consulting services also operating in this space are doing really well. Here they have like a value-based pricing business model. Data Matica, which is an enterprise data management warehouse like solution for large enterprises, did about 233 crores in revenue and 7.1 crores in PAT. Aqua Brahma, like data like intelligence platform, did about 190 crores in revenue and 2.1 crores in PAT. So like one category was of course your D2C brand, and D2C brand boom truly came about maybe in the 2014-2016 like era, where they have smartphone like penetration as well as Jio, right? Like Jio really revolutionized the landscape because of the access to the internet. Now you had large offline brands which were HUL, like Dabur, Marico, who are all focused on offline trade in both modern as well as like general. Now during the era of the online boom with platforms like Amazon like coming into picture, a lot of the early brands that took like the advantage of that like digital like penetration like came about. Also like here, if you really ask me, building a consumer brand today in India is very difficult because the customer acquisition costs are just inflated through the roof. Back in 2015-2016, the CAC was so low that you could actually spend 1 rupee on Facebook and make back 5 to 6 rupees quite easily. Brands that were actually like building in that space found it very easy to acquire new customers at that particular like point in time. In fact, it's like a fun joke. VCs at that point in time were more or less like a Facebook agency partner, because 50%, 60% of all capital raised by startups in that particular point in time all went into like Facebook for like paid marketing to just acquire customers rapidly at scale. So brands like Honasa, they actually built their first brand, which was like Mamaearth, which they scaled out very aggressively and tried to acquire as many consumers. Now have built like a house of brands by essentially stacking different brands in different categories in the beauty and personal care space. So Honasa like does about 1,515 crores in revenue with a PAT of 150 crores. Now Bolt Audio, which is a brand that operates in the audio accessories space, did about 501 crores in revenue with a 4.2 crore PAT on that. And you have like different other like consumer brands like Arctic Fox, which is like a travel gear brand which does about 140 crores with 4.8 crores in PAT. Then you have White Teak, which is like a premium lighting solution which does about 109 crores and 11 crores in PAT. Now building your own startup can be very challenging, as I've seen in this video so far, but that won't stop a lot of people from starting their own online business. And a big problem all of them will face is creating an online store, maybe due to lack of budget or technical knowledge, or they have not yet built an online store yet. This is when ODOO, our sponsor for today, comes in. If you're somebody who's facing challenges with your online store, then you need to check out ODOO's e-commerce builder. With this tool, you don't need to worry about having any technical skills. All you will have to do is follow 4 simple steps, starting by mentioning the type of business you're in, your color palette choice, or you can upload your logo to integrate your brand colors, the pages and features you need, and lastly, choosing from so many themes. Then ODOO does most of the work for you by providing simple drag and drop UI UX features with which you can easily customize the page and add in your products. And speaking of products, it's super easy to add your whole catalog. All you have to do is click on new at the top right, choose the product, add in the name and your prices of the product, or simply scan the barcode. The product page is ready to be customized further. Add in the images and description and make it more aesthetic. With integrated payment gateways and shipping partners, managing orders becomes seamless. And you know the best part? You won't even have to dip into your funds because ODOO's first app is free for life with unlimited hosting support and a free personalized domain name for the first year. So check out ODOO for all your online store needs. Now back to the video. In the consumer space, e-commerce platforms are a very important driver to this category. Their main source of revenue is commission from sellers, advertisement fees, and premium subscriptions that they charge. Now the high acquisition customer costs are offsetted by repeat purchasers in the same category or across different categories. Like Nykaa, for example, which is a beauty and fashion marketplace, did about 346 crores in revenue and 61 crores in PAT. So Urban Ladder, which is a furniture e-commerce company, did 196 crores in revenue and 27 crores in PAT. So now while the entire D2C landscape was booming, to really scale out D2C, you need good technology solutions. So the retail tech space also saw an increasing rise of companies that were built in this time. For example, Unicorns just listed on the public market. So here the special categories were companies building for store management solutions, different sort of omni-channel enablement solutions, retail analytics, Now, the revenue streams here are from SaaS-based subscriptions and transaction fees. Beehive, which is a retail space-like solution, did about 105 crores in revenue with 2.7 crores in PAT. Find, which is an O2O retail platform, did about 365 crores in revenue with a 2.5 crores in PAT. Now, one of the most hot category and upcoming booming space, which is still a little bit like underexposed, is the B2B commerce, logistics and supply chain space, which saw about 25 startups in this space. Now, it's very important to note that basically help in organizing a large unorganized market sees a good amount of like revenue coming in from it, because in an unorganized market, you have different parts of the supply chain which need that value addition added to it, right? There's this line. When there is a gold rush happening, you don't go digging for gold. Rather sell like shovels. And that's exactly what some of these companies did. B2B commerce and aggregation is a very, very large category in India due to like several reasons. One, there is a rapid growth in India's economy with the increasing growth in GDP, which is consistently above 6% in the recent years. This economic expansion has driven increased demand for efficient logistics and supply chain solutions to support the movement of goods, raw materials, and finished products all across the country. Is coupled with our young Indian demographics has led to significant growth in domestic consumption across goods and services. Now, this has created a need for more sophisticated and technology-driven logistic solutions, right? That we essentially need. Now, the growth in e-commerce is another reason as to why this sector is becoming very, very hot. Now, if India as a country wants to increase its trade in the global supply chain, you will have companies operating in the goods and service category. But at the same time, you'll also need companies that help these companies create efficient logistic and supply chain solutions through freight forwarding and custom clearance and all of that. So this has opened up the opportunity for logistic providers to actually cater to both domestic as well as international businesses. Now here, for example, we have Everest Fleet, which provides end-to-end fleet management solutions, including transportation services to businesses. So they did a revenue of 804 crores with 6.24 crores in PAT. Now, another example in this space is Tiranga Logistics, a tech-enabled logistics provider that offers freight forwarding and brokerage services to its businesses. They did a revenue of 1,723 crores with a profit of 3.49 crores. Now, the warehousing and inventory management space is also exciting. You have companies like Holisol, a provider of e-commerce logistics and supply chain, where they also offer warehousing and inventory management services to its customers. They did about 384 crores in revenue with a PAT of 8.8 crores. Now, one of the biggest opportunities that we saw in the space was also the aggregation of B2B commerce and marketplaces. A prime example here is Inframarket. They provide end-to-end supply chain solutions to construction and infrastructure companies. And they work with some of the largest brands like Tata, Reliance, Adani, and all of these brands that actually require a large amount of construction work to be done. Now, when India's growth story is looking so hot, and companies are looking to hire thousands and thousands of employees, what do you think is a key problem some of these big MNCs will have? The answer is transportation. So Move and Sync, which is an employee transportation SaaS platform, did about 278 crores in revenue and 9.2 crores in PAT. Another cool company operating in the space is Aerotrans, in which they have tech-enabled fleet services. Now, say that you wanted to rent a helicopter to just go for a joyride. This is one company that's great because they are doing about 404 crores in revenue with about 13.3 crores in PAT. And there are a lot of other companies in third-party logistics, fourth-party logistics, as well as supply chain transformation companies also existing in this space. Now for the most exciting part, media and entertainment. They saw a representation of 20 companies. Now if you look at India as a market, India is one of the fastest growing gaming markets in the world. The number of smartphone penetration has increased rapidly. The amount of internet connections has also increased rapidly. And this makes it ripe for disruption for the entire gaming industry. And this industry in India has really evolved from a pay to download model or to actually a free to play plan where you have in-app purchases and subscriptions after that. So one company here that really stood out was Gamescraft, which is an online gaming platform where they have games like Rummy Culture and Ludo Culture. They did a revenue of 2,732 crores with a PAT of 1,063 crores. Nordbit Gaming, which is an e-sports company that focuses on organizing some of these gaming tournaments in India, did about 3 394 crores in revenue and about 0.97 crores in PAT. And then we move to the content platform. Here we have TVF Play, which is an online video platform that hosts a lot of like web series, short films, and has like different like content created by the viral fever. So here they did 165 crores in revenue and 16.2 crores in PAT. So Sportskeeda, which is an online sports media platform which covers different sports like cricket, football, esports, basketball, did a revenue of 126 crores with a PAT of 32 crores. Next we have like animation. While on one end content creation was becoming really hot as an industry, on the other hand like gaming was becoming very hot. These companies said that okay, let us help all of these companies to like build some of these like content and games. So if you look at like 88 Pictures, which is an animation production house which does like everything from like animation, VFX and content creation, did about 125 crores in revenue with a PAT of 25.6 crores. Moonfrog Labs on the other hand, which is like a mobile game dev company, did about 259 crores in revenue and 102 crores in PAT. The next segment is like digital media. Here we saw like companies like Social Beat, which is a digital marketing agency, did revenues of 156 crores with a PAT of 11 crores. Like Media Ant on the other hand, which is a media buying platform, did about 108 crores in revenue with 1.5 crores in PAT. In this, they help companies find ad spaces as well as like inventories across airports, radios, TVs, print, television, social media across platforms, which is more or less like a media buying platform. Now, the infrastructure and manufacturing. As we all know, India from like a macro perspective is well positioned to become a global manufacturing hub. We have a large workforce that can be trainable to support our manufacturing visions. The Indian government has also launched several incentives to boost manufacturing. The entire Make in India campaign to encourage global manufacturers to set up their factories in India and to encourage like our domestic manufacturers to export. PLIs, which stands for Production Linked Incentive Schemes, offering over $26 billion in subsidies across 14 key sectors, play a pivotal role. Like cost competitiveness is also an important reason for India to really like win the race when it comes to manufacturing. India also offers very competitive structures due to our lower labor costs compared to other manufacturing nations in India. Recently, India also emerged as the world's second largest mobile phone manufacturing country after China. Exports of completely built electronic goods, including smartphones, have tripled since 2018 to reach $23 billion in 2026. Also, with increasing geopolitical tensions, many companies are adopting a China plus one strategy, looking to like diversify their supply chain outside of China. This gives India a golden opportunity in this space. Now, given that the export opportunity might also be interesting, India also has a very large internal domestic market with a strong base for manufacturers, allowing them to serve both domestic as well as global demand. Now, the question to ask here is India really prepared to become a global manufacturing hub? And for that, a key important skill set is actually having good well-skilled talent, right? Which like currently there is like a shortage of. So there also exists opportunities for company to help enable the skill development of these employees so that they can play a key role in the manufacturing boom that India is going to witness. All right, let's start first with clean energy. Let's look at like Epsilon Carbon, which manufactures specialized carbon materials used in lithium-ion batteries and various industrial applications. Their products are a crucial component for electric vehicles, battery manufacturing, and energy storage solutions. They did a revenue of 3,016 crores with a PAT of 455 crores. A 15% profit margin for a manufacturing company is really impressive. True Alt Bioenergy, which develops and produces biofuels by converting agricultural waste into sustainable energy solutions. This company focuses on creating renewable alternatives to traditional fossil fuels. They did a revenue of 762 crores with a PAT of 35.4 crores. The next sector that we saw was actually in industrial tech. Companies like Electra EV, which designs, develop and manufactures EV charging infrastructures and powertrain solutions. This company provides comprehensive electric mobility solutions and commercial vehicle fleets. They did a revenue of 283 crores with a PAT of 3.7 crores. Next, we have Loham, which integrates battery manufacturing with recycling technology to create sustainable energy storage solutions. This company focuses on building a circular economy for lithium-ion batteries. They did a revenue of 308 crores with a PAT of 8.8 crores. Now we have the traditional like manufacturing space. In this, we have Oyster Industries, which manufactures high-performance tires using advanced manufacturing processes and technology. This company produces tires for different vehicle segments with focus on quality and durability. They clocked in 144 crores in revenue and did a profit of about 3.8 crores. Next, you have JB Ecotex, which manufactures environmentally responsible textiles using sustainable processes and materials. This company specializes in eco-friendly fabric production for various industrial applications. applications. They did a revenue of 600 crores with a profit of 27.9 crores. Like then in the hardware segment, you have like Census Electronics. They manufacture electronic components and devices with specialization in IoT solutions. This company develops connected device technologies for various industrial applications. They did a revenue of 169 crores with a profit of 13.2 crores. The other company is High Focus, which develops and manufactures comprehensive surveillance systems and security hardware solutions. The company provides integrated security technology for enterprise as well as institutional customers. They did a revenue of 387 crores with a profit of 7.5 crores. Another interesting insight is the real money to be actually made was in the B2B space, not actually in D2C or B2C. Among the 187 profitable companies analyzed in the Indicorns report, there is a clear dominance of B2B businesses. I mean, B2B has approximately about 60 to 65% of companies, B2C only about 25 to about 30%, and approximately 10% of them were hybrid, which were B2B2C companies. B2B companies also commanded a higher profit margin compared to B2C companies. The 55% of B2B companies accounted to close to 75% of total revenue. There is a clear dominance in the B2B business model, particularly in sectors requiring a deep domain experience or solving complex supply chain problems. The success of B2B companies is mainly attributed to like several reasons. One is it has a higher transaction value. I mean, typically like 10 times, 100 times more than B2C. And the most important part is they have like better like customer retention rate, because once these companies are integrated as a solution partner or like a service provider into the like company's existing mode of like operations, it becomes very tough to churn. And the customer acquisition payback period is a lot lesser for B2B companies, which is about 3 to 4 months, versus B2C companies, which is at about 12 to 15 months. Or like another reason why B2B emerged as a clear winner in the Indicorns list is because these companies could achieve higher revenues with better profit margins just due to the fact of lower customer acquisition costs, longer contract values, predictable revenue streams, and stronger moat. So if you are building a services business, it is best that you go after like an enterprise solution where you can make a higher amount of transaction value, less predictable churn, and more amount of like consistent revenue flowing in. I mean, like I've lived like in 2 Indias by now. When I started my entrepreneurship journey half a decade ago, at that time, the entire narrative was, okay, which is the biggest, largest, sexiest idea you can find? And success was always, defined in who raised how much amount of funding from which investors, right? And think a little bit, deeply. It's not about how sexy like your business looks, but more importantly, how deep you go into solving your consumer problems. Because the more deeper that you can go into like solving these problems, there's a larger amount of value to be extracted from that by virtue of the business. If you really look at it, some of the largest businesses have all been built slowly and patiently, and they've actually taken decades to build. So if you are like a young entrepreneur watching this, don't try to like glamorize like getting featured on these articles or showing who's raised the most amount of money. It doesn't matter in the end. What really matters is that you enjoy what you do every single day. You're very passionate about solving that particular problem. And more importantly, you're having a lot of like fun along the way. It's not a sprint, but it's a long endurance marathon. And companies that can survive all phases of the like funding cycle, downturn cycle, all of these different macroeconomic conditions as well as micro, will be the companies that build decade-long valuable businesses. So if you are like a young founder watching this, don't feel dissuaded by not reaching like a unicorn status or growing 100 crores in 3 years. As we see in this report, as we have broken down, it genuinely takes time. Alright guys, my name is Rohit Kamath and thank you for watching the breakdown on the top 187 profitable startups in India.